Example, we'll practice running multivariate regression. The first step of that is, of course, reading in the data, and we can copy this line of code from the textbook into R to execute, and it reads in this data set MA schools from GitHub, and this has information on schools in Massachusetts. A lot of the examples use data on schools from California, but we're switching it up for Massachusetts this time. So once I run this, I have this object, MA schools, in my environment, and I can use it. Let's take a look at what is in this data quickly, since it's the first time we've used it. There's some information on what each school is, where it's located, a few different variables about the spending with the EXP at the beginning. We're going to focus on 4 of these variables, so we're going to look at EXP tot, which is the total expenditure at the school, this one. We're going to look at median income, and we're going to look at the variable English, which is the percentage of students that don't speak English as their native language at the school. And we're going to look at all of those to predict the test scores in the 8th grade, score 8. And so running a multivariate regression uses the same basic structure that we used for bivariate regression in the last chapter. And so we can start by running a regression with just one independent variable. And so we'll start by writing summary, because we want to get the full information from the regression. Then we'll add the command lm, which is for the linear model that we want to run. And so score 8 goes in first because it's our dependent variable, it's the y. And then we'll add xp tot as the first independent variable that we want to include. And then we need to tell R where these variables are, and they're in the data set MA schools. And when we run this, we'll get our output. We'll see that spending at the school is significant and positive. So in order to create a multivariate regression, what we want to do is, after our independent variable, we want to include a plus sign, because we're telling the regression that we want to include both of these variables together. And so if we wanted to add English as our second variable, we would want score 8, tilde, wavy sign, xp tot, plus English. And when we run that, R will give us the output, and it'll give us both a coefficient for xp tot and English. And it's including both of those variables and looking at this sort of unique effect of those on 8th grade test scores. And we can keep adding more variables by just including more plus signs and names of more variables. And so if we wanted to also add income, we could just go and say plus income. And that basic structure will continue out. If we wanted to include 20 variables, it would just be adding each individual variable's name with a plus sign between them, telling R that we're including all of these variables separately. And so we can run this final regression and see the output now with these 3 coefficients.